I noticed it on an ordinary evening, which is how these things always begin. Nothing dramatic. No sudden fear. No sense that my life was about to change. I was walking home after work, the same route I'd taken for years. The streetlights were already on, casting long yellow pools across the sidewalk. My shoes scraped softly against the concrete, and somewhere behind me a car passed, its tires hissing on the road. I stopped at a crosswalk and glanced down. That was when I realized my shadow wasn't there. At first, I assumed I'd stepped into a blind spot between lights. It happens. Shadows stretch, break, disappear when the angle is wrong. I shifted my weight, took a step forward, then back, nothing. The light above me hummed faintly, bright enough to cast clear shadows from the traffic sign, from a trash can nearby, from a crack in the pavement. Just not from me. I felt a small, irrational chill and laughed under my breath. "Get it together," I muttered. I raised my hand. No shadow followed the movement. That was the moment unease crept in, not panic. Just the uncomfortable awareness that something fundamental had gone missing. I stepped forward, out of the light, then back into it again. Still nothing. I looked around, half expecting someone else to be watching, to tell me this was some strange trick of perspective. But the street was empty. I crossed the road quickly and kept walking, telling myself I'd imagined it. By the time I reached my apartment building, I had almost convinced myself it was nothing. Almost. Inside, under the harsh white hallway lights, I checked again. No shadow. I stood there longer than necessary, staring at the floor like it might suddenly decide to make sense. The light fixtures buzzed quietly. Somewhere above me, a door closed. I felt ridiculous. I went upstairs, unlocked my apartment, and stepped inside. The lights came on automatically. For a brief, hopeful second, I expected to see my shadow stretch across the wall, familiar and reassuring. The wall remained blank. I didn't sleep well that night. Every time I shifted, every time I turned over, I found myself staring at the empty space beside the bed, half expecting something to be there. When morning came, I stood in the bathroom under the overhead light and watched my reflection carefully. I was there, my shadow was not. I called in sick to work. I told myself it was stress, exhaustion, my mind playing tricks on me, but the truth was simpler and much worse. My shadow was gone, not faded, not distorted, gone. I spent the day testing it like a problem that could be solved with enough logic. Different rooms, different lights. Lamps, sunlight, the glow from my phone screen, nothing. I stood in front of the window as the afternoon sun poured in, strong and undeniable. The world cast shadows perfectly. Just not me. By evening, fear had settled into something colder and steadier. I went out again, drawn by the need to see if the world still recognized me. People passed on the sidewalk without a second glance. Cars stopped at intersections. Life went on as if nothing had changed. But as I walked, I felt lighter. Not physically, internally. As if something that had always been there, weighing just enough to be unnoticed, had lifted. The sensation was unsettling, but it was also tempting. Over the next few days, strange things began to happen. Not dramatic things, subtle things. People at work interrupted me more often, as if forgetting I was speaking. My emails were answered later than usual, if at all. Once, a coworker walked past my desk, paused, and asked if I'd always sat there. "Yes," I said. He frowned, confused, then shrugged and walked away. I checked my reflection constantly. Still no shadow. On the third day, I noticed something new. I was walking through a park on my lunch break when I saw it. A shadow, standing alone. It was cast on the ground near a bench, stretched long by the afternoon sun, but there was no one there. The shadow looked wrong to define, too sharp. I slowed, heart pounding, and watched as it moved. Not randomly, deliberately. It shifted, as if adjusting its position, then turned. Toward me. I stopped walking. The shadow stopped too. I swallowed hard. "Hello?" I said, hating the way my voice sounded. The shadow didn't respond. But it leaned forward slightly, the way a person might when they're about to speak. Then it began to move away, not quickly, not fleeing, leading. I should have run. Instead, I followed it. The shadow slipped between trees, always just ahead of me, never fully leaving my sight. People passed nearby, oblivious. None of them noticed the moving shape on the ground without a source. My heart raced as the park thinned out and the noise of the city faded. Finally, the shadow stopped beneath a tall street lamp at the edge of the park. It stood there, complete and solid, as if waiting. "Is that you?" I whispered. The shadow didn't answer. Instead, it lifted one arm, an arm shaped exactly like mine. Then it pointed, down a narrow path I'd never noticed before. A path without lights. I took a shaky step back. "No," I said. "I'm not doing this." The shadow didn't move. It simply waited. I turned and walked away, my pulse thundering in my ears. I didn't look back until I reached the street. The shadow was gone. That night, I dreamed of standing under a blazing sun. Everything around me cast a shadow. Everything except me. Behind me, I felt something shift. When I turned, my shadow stood there, upright and solid, looking back at me. "You're late," it said. I woke up drenched in sweat. The dreams didn't stop. Each night, my shadow appeared closer, clearer, more detailed. It spoke without moving its mouth, its voice identical to mine. "You don't need me anymore," it said. "You've been standing still for a long time." I started noticing changes in myself. Decisions came easier. Fear felt distant. Things that once made me hesitate now barely registered. It was as if doubt had been peeled away, and with it, something else. Empathy dulled. Regret faded. I felt efficient, empty. One evening, as I stood in my apartment staring at the blank floor beneath my feet, I heard a knock at the door. I froze. The knock came again, soft but deliberate. I approached slowly and opened the door. No one stood in the hallway. But on the floor, stretching into my apartment, was my shadow. It slid forward, crossing the threshold like a living thing. I stumbled back as it rose, peeling itself off the floor until it stood in front of me. My exact height, my exact shape, except for one thing. Its edges were too sharp. "You left me behind," it said. My throat tightened. "You're not real," it tilted its head. "Neither are you, not anymore," I shook my head. "That's not true. You stopped hesitating," it said. "You stopped doubting. You stopped looking back. That was my job. What do you want?" I whispered. "To finish what you started," it said calmly. The room felt colder. "I don't understand." It stepped closer. "When people stop listening to their shadow," it said, "they stop feeling the weight of consequence. They move forward without friction." "That's not a bad thing," I said weakly. The shadow smiled. "It is when you move too far." Memories flooded my mind, moments when I'd almost chosen differently. Times when hesitation had saved me from mistakes I didn't even know I was avoiding. "You're the part of me that doubts," I said. "I'm the part that remembers," it replied. I backed away until I hit the wall. "Then take it back," I said. "I don't want this." The shadow studied me for a long moment. "Once a shadow leaves," it said, "it can't simply return." "Then what happens?" I asked. It looked past me, toward the window. "One of us has to stay behind." The implication hit me like a blow. "No," I said. "That's insane. It's balance," it replied. "The world needs weight. Someone has to carry it." I laughed, hysterical. "So what? You take my place? Walk around pretending to be me?" It didn't deny it. "You'll still exist," it said. "Just lighter, freer." "And you?" "I'll hesitate," it said. "I'll doubt. I'll remember what it means to stop." The room seemed to tilt. "You've already been fading," the shadow continued. "People forget you, miss you, walk past you." That's not an accident. I thought of my coworkers, the pauses, the confusion. "What if I refuse?" I asked. The shadow's expression hardened. "Then you'll keep drifting," it said, "until there's nothing left for me to take." Silence stretched between us. I realized then what I'd lost. Not my shadow, my anchor. The part of me that questioned, that feared, that slowed me down just enough to stay human. "I want my shadow back," I said. The shadow nodded slowly. "Then you must follow me," it said. "Where?" "To where you stopped," it replied. The floor beneath us darkened. The room dissolved. Suddenly, I was standing under a streetlight. The same one from that first night. Cars passed. The city breathed around us. The shadow stepped into place behind me. I felt a weight settle over my shoulders, warm, familiar, painful. I looked down. My shadow stretched out on the pavement once more, whole. I exhaled a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Behind me, I felt the shadow hesitate. "You'll feel heavier now," it said quietly. "Slower, unsure." "I know," I replied. "And you'll doubt again." "I need to," I said. There was a pause. Then, softly, "Don't forget me." The shadow merged fully with my feet. I stood alone under the light, whole. When I walked home, my shadow followed every step. But sometimes, only sometimes, I swear, it lingers just a fraction of a second behind, as if remembering what it was like to walk on its own, and as if reminding me that if I ever stop listening to it again, it won't wait.